And we're back with James O'Connor, designer of Jewelers Row, and welcome to Dino World. Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is Bastion, a projecting part of a fortification, a fortified area or position, a place of security or survival, a place dominated by a particular group or marked by a particular characteristic. And being the ever so area control fan myself, this word does appeal to me. I don't know about you.
Indeed. This one leapt off the page for me.
That's good.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. The thing I couldn't shake from my head was the fortification or a fortified area, and I'm a big fan of medieval themes and stuff like that, and so I couldn't shake the idea of castles in relationship to this word. It was so fitting and perfect in pretty much every way.
What do you think they meant by a projecting part of a fortification?
So to me, that seemed like a those towers where it's the tower's going up and there's a little piece of the tower is kind of sticking off to the side, and a little mini tower is kind of attached to the main tower.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I thought of that, or the ramparts on top of a castle where they're kind of hanging over the edge, so you can look down. Those were kind of the images that came to my mind when I was reading the definition.
Yeah, just like an extension, I think.
Exactly. And so the game idea that came to me from this definition was actually one that I worked on several years ago. When deck builders were all the rage. So I was like, okay, I'll try my hand at building a deck builder. And what I wanted to do to kind of make it different was make it a little bit more interactive, like you did things with the cards after you acquired them. And so that's the game I was going to kind of pitch here. So just try not to choke as I blow the dust off of it. It's been sitting there for a while.
Hey, I played a game at Unpub with rules that were dated 2009 or might have been 2011 or something, but the person whose game it was had the copyright and the year on their rules, and it was definitely at least 6 or 7 plus years old. So I'm good.
That's fantastic,
and it was a fun game.
Okay, awesome. That's the important part. So yeah, this one I called Shuffle Siege, because the idea is that you've got 2 players and they each have their castle. And they're trying to siege each other's castles by using a deck shuffling, deck building mechanic. And so in the game, you have kind of a long rectangular board that's divided up into 3 lanes. So it's almost a little bit like a tower defense or like a lane control game as well. You have your castle on either end. And your goal is to defend your castle, because in the castle at the very end is your king card. And so if you ever lose your king, then the game's over. And you start with a little deck that's got some money, it's got some archers, it's got some peasants, and that's kind of what you start with. And in between the 2 castles is 3 lanes of about 5 slots long each. So 5 spaces long, three lanes across. And you're trying to acquire cards, put them in your castle to defend your castle, but also deploy them into the central area and advance them down the lanes to try and get to the opponent's castle. And if you can siege the castle, break through, capture their king, then you would win. So the idea was that you would get different kinds of cards, like knights and wizards and catapults and stuff like that. And you could acquire more and more cards and put them in your deck, and your standard deck building mechanic where you spend the money, buy the card, it goes in there, comes out later, you throw it on the field, it might die, and then it just goes into your discard pile and comes back later. So you're just trying to build a stronger and stronger deck so that you can overwhelm your opponent's forces on one of the lanes and push far enough so that you can get to the castle. And so if you put a new card in one of those lanes, any other cards that were already there would get pushed ahead 1. And then if they encountered an enemy card that was coming from the opposite direction, those 2 cards would fight. So it had a basic attack and defense value. And so if your attack was better than the defense, then you would knock that card off and kind of assume their position on the board. That's kind of how you would advance. So you're trying to push cards into the lanes that would then push other cards forward, and then when they encountered, they would kind of resolve. And if you can do that and get it all the way across the board and capture the opponent's king, then you would win.
So is there a lot of movement? Were you picking up cards and moving them around quite a bit?
Yeah, so it was kind of almost like a minis game in a way, because you were treating each card as an individual unit, and every card in a lane would move together. So if I put a new card in the right hand lane, every card that's in front of that would push ahead one, so you'd slide them all down one to make room for the new card. And then if that sliding encountered an enemy card, then those two cards would resolve, and you would take one of those two cards would take the other position's spot based on who won and who lost.
So there were two different ways I've seen that could combat that in a really good way, and because it's a lot of shuffling things around. And there was a game called Battle at Kemble's Cascade, and this is probably like 2014. It might have came out.
Oh, and yeah, I've heard about that. It's based on like the arcade games.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an arcade space shooter, ship shooter. But what it had was these like little plastic lanes that would shift, and you had 3 cards in each lane or something like that. And when I guess like the screen scrolled or whatever, things shifted. And you use those lanes, and the plastic lanes made it super easy to shift an entire row of cards. And it, as you were saying that, it made me think of that. There's just like you could even like 3D print something like that nowadays.
That would be really cool. Actually, I've heard of that game, but I've never had an opportunity to play it, and I don't know if you can find it anymore. Is it still out there?
I own it, and I bought it at I think like Gen Con or something, and it's a beast. Like, it's a good 2.5 hour game, I think, or at least like a 2 hour game. And
wow,
I love it. It's fun. It's very thematic, and it's just like a riot to play. And it's like competitive, but not like direct combat, because you're usually fighting against the elements and the other things. But you can attack each other. So it's neat. It's definitely like it kind of stands on its own, and it's different than a lot of other things.
Yeah, I definitely need to check that one out.
I played a session of it with Tim. What is his game channel called? Gray Elephant Games. Me and him played it at the booth of whoever made it, and I can't remember if it was like Z-Man or someone, or Stronghold, or whoever it was. We were playing at their booth, and it was just the loudest, most like riot of a game. Like, me and him, and it was just a lot of fun. That kind of sealed the deal that I was like, all right, I have to buy it.
No, definitely. Yeah, and the mechanics just sounded very interesting from that one, and like how it kind of preserved the state of each lane as it was kind of coming down. It definitely portrayed that sense of an old arcade shooter,
and it just
in a physical space.
It just made it so it wasn't like a hassle of picking things up and moving a lot of things around, and that's why I thought of it as a component for this. It would be neat.
Right, exactly.
So the other thing I thought was just, the digital space. It's easy in a digital sense to push a bunch of cards,
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I need to work on my app developing skills. They are 0 right now.
Mine are slightly above 0, but not much.
Oh.
And
I was thinking that you could have go ahead.
Oh, no. I developed a couple apps years ago, and once they had a bug, I was out. I was like, I can't fix the bug. I can make the app, but I can't fix the bugs.
Yeah, trying to crawl through that code to find the one place where you forgot a semicolon is just ridiculous.
So what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, with the different kinds of units in this game, in Shuffle Siege, I was thinking that you could have different kinds of wizards and stuff like that. You'd have a fire wizard and an ice wizard, and you could only play fire and ice spells from your hand. Like, you could buy spells and put them in your hand if you have that kind of caster on the board. So if you had a wizard who was moving down the ranks or holding back in your castle, then you could play fire cards from your hand as long as you had him. But if you lost him, then your fire cards are gone, and you can't use them anymore. They're dead in your hand. So I thought that would be interesting too, because then you're trying to balance, okay, well, I really want this guy to be able to cast these spells, but I don't want to lose him, so I want to hold him back, but then he becomes a target for anything ranged. So I thought that could be an interesting mechanic that I hadn't seen before too.
That's really interesting in a deck builder, because filling your opponent's hands with garbage in deck builder is great. You want to fill your opponent's hands with just cards that are trash and things like that. And for you to build your deck around a certain thing, but for me to disable that one thing, then I remove it from the board and also potentially make things in your hand trash that I know I watched you pick up.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I like that element about it. It was one of my favorite parts of it, because you could you get this fire wizard and you just buy a bunch of fire spells, and as soon as he's gone, those fire spells are useless to you until you can get another fire caster back on the field. So that push and pull of being able to have some really powerful abilities, but they're all going through one central focus, which is a vulnerable focus, I thought made for an interesting element in the game.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool. Cool. Anything else?
Well, cool
for this.
No, I think that was kind of the crux of it. But definitely, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it.
I thought of it as like every single area control where you have your units and then you drop your fortification of whatever sort into the area.
Kind of locking down an area.
Yeah, to lock it down, or to even more than reinforce, to give you some sort of bonus in there. And it's like a different style component than your dudes that are on the map, and it's just that's the kind of thing that I love about that kind of game. So that's as far as I thought about it. It was right up my alley, but it seemed like a cool word, and I like that you had a very different take on it than my generic.
Yeah, it's one of those things like castles and fortifications are like one of those things that they can be the focus of the game. Like you can be sieging a castle, or they can be something you pull back from, and they can be like, oh, there's castles all over the map, and where you place a castle kind of does something. Or you can have like a political intrigue that's inside a castle, or there are so many ways to approach this that it kind of becomes something that can take up any element of the game. It could be the focus, or it can be a backdrop, or it can be a mechanic, or it can be a component, or it can be anything you want. There's just so many different takes on that element that it makes it kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, it absolutely is. My one castle thing I did was I was making a game where you were actually building card castles, and that was part of the game. Like building them out of playing cards.
Exactly.
And it just it's impossible it's so difficult to do that. To gamify it, there was this level of like even just getting past the first step of it that we couldn't do to get to the actual game part.
Oh Jesus.
But I guess there's things like Rhino Hero. It just the cards are folded in a way that it helps you, achieve that goal. When you start out with just straight playing cards and you got to get that first level going, it's hard.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never been good at building card castles in my life. But I was at, I think it was where I met you. It was at PAX Unplugged last year. I saw a game. I think it was from Breaking Games. It was like about building a house of cards, and they used a couple of different mechanics. They had like little wooden blocks that could be put on the board as like a foundation almost. You could like lean cards against the wooden blocks so they wouldn't move as much. Yeah. And you were trying to like play cards from your hand, like raise levels and like say this card can only touch these kinds of things. And based on how you built the house, that could be really easy or it could be really hard. And I thought that was a really interesting mechanic. I saw a lot of people playing that one.
I don't know if you ever saw at like Gen Con, they have the like card castle corner. I don't know what it's called. Where
Card Hala or
yes, exactly.
Like that?
And they just, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's just a massive corner area, maybe like 50 feet by 100 feet, where people are just building massive card castles. There's just thousands of like Magic the Gathering cards or whatever people donate, and people sit there for 3 days and make these card castles. And me and my son sat there forever just building them, and some of them are as tall as me. Some of them are, and the whole idea is at the end of, I think it's the Saturday night at Gen Con, people throw coins and knock them down, and then all the coins are collected for charity. And people would bid to throw the first coin, and they'd start out saying, "I'll spend $1, I'll spend $10." I swear it got up to $1,000 of people just chipping in for somebody to throw that first coin. And it was just it's such an amazing like thing to watch, is just watch it over the three days just grow into these huge, like people try to really reinforce certain ones, and you're only using the cards, you're not using anything else, but it's just trying to make those ones that are going to withstand people throwing coins, and it's great. It was fun.
That sounds fantastic.
I also got beamed by a quarter during it.
Oh no!
which it was like somebody really like winged that across the room, and but aside from that, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, you got injured for a good cause at least.
Exactly. But I mean, it was like they're trying to figure out who's going to throw that first quarter or first coin, and they split the room into two groups, the left and the right. And they're saying, all right, this person's the nomination for left. Everybody throw in your money. And there was like a balcony and then people under it. People are just dropping like $20 bills, like just to donate for our side to be the first one throwing the coin. It was just like it was intense. There was just money flying everywhere.
Well, that's definitely gaming for a good cause.
Yeah, it was great, and I would like to see that at smaller cons. Just like people love to build the castles, people love to knock them down, and people are always willing to give pocket change to a good cause.
Exactly. The thing that always struck me from the pictures and stuff of these giant castles and everything was that most of them are made out of Magic the Gathering cards, from what I saw.
Yeah.
And it amused me that there are so many Magic the Gathering cards that are so worthless that they serve no other purpose except as building material to chuck coins at.
Well, like, full disclosure, at Button Shy here, I have gotten rid of many, many, many cards. I mean, I have boxes of 4,000 cards where I'm just like, this is not selling, this is not doing anything, this is getting recycled. So, yeah, we have a lot of cards where I just was like, where can I donate a box of 4,000, misprinted Twin Stars cards? Like, like, what am I going to do with them? Like, we reprinted them, and just what do I do with it? So, yeah, there's a lot here that has just been taking up space in storage and things like that. So I thought of like those type of events being perfect for it.
Oh, definitely, absolutely.
It just isn't as good looking as the Magic cards.
That's true.
It's the same card repeated. All right, cool. Yeah, this was fun. So tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, mostly I'm on Twitter. That's where I like to focus on all the communications with the outside world. It's at Stellaris Games, STELLARIS. And I try to check in on there every couple of days. I'm not as active as I should be, but I would definitely love to hear from anybody if you have thoughts on this or any of the other podcasts we've been doing here with Button Shy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Thank you.